Welcome to yoga on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. So my name is Elisa and I'm with XYZ Wellness, and I'm really happy to be here with you guys today, and I'm so glad you took the time for yourself. We're going to actually start on the floor. So you might want to have a block or a pillow or a cushion to sit on. And having something to sit on is really beneficial for our lower back, so especially if we notice maybe that we tend to slump, or if we have any lower back pain, this can be helpful. And it also really helps to keep the hips a little bit higher than the knees. So if we're sitting on the floor, we notice our knees are way up higher than our hips, maybe either rolling up our yoga mat and sitting on that, or again, you might take a cushion from your couch or a block or a couple books, anything that can give you a little bit of height. And once we get into that seat, maybe just adjusting the skin of our bottom so that we're actually sitting on our sitting bones and finding some length in the spine. Now, before we go too much further into the practice, I'm just going to let you know that I teach all levels. So when I teach a class, I really want you to practice at whatever level feels good to you today. So it's not about making your body look like anybody else's, and it's not about trying to force any of the poses. It's really about making the poses fit your body and paying attention to how you're feeling in every moment. So as we move through the practice, you might choose, different levels of options. So at one point you might be feeling really energetic, and so you might be going for some options that fit that. Or if you feel like you need to maybe give yourself a moment of rest, allowing yourself that as well, maybe choosing a more gentle option. And you never need permission to rest in yoga. It's all about paying attention to what you need in the moment. So right now we're going to find a comfortable seat, and if it doesn't feel good to have your knees crossed like this, you could even extend them forward or have them bent with your feet flat on the floor. So finding your comfortable seat, and hands can be either face up or face down on the lap. And either allowing our eyes to close completely if that feels good, or if not, maybe just allowing the gaze to come down towards the ground. And just starting to notice your breath. So as we arrive here in our bodies, on our yoga mats, noticing any sensations in the body, noticing any tightness or maybe an ache or just any gripping or holding. And as we have that awareness on our breath, maybe directing the breath to any part of the body that might need it right now. And we can subtly begin to allow our breath to maybe lengthen or deepen. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose. So when we practice yoga, it's really helpful to breathe in and out through the nose. That helps our bodies tune into our parasympathetic nervous system. So that's our rest and digest mode. When we breathe in and out through the mouth, it can be a more shallow type of breath, which can actually trigger a stress response. So we're trying to tap into that parasympathetic mode, calming and soothing the body and the mind. Inhaling and exhaling, letting one breath follow the other. And you might notice that the in and out breath, maybe it starts to travel across the back of the throat, coming to what we call our Ujjayi breath, which can actually sound almost like maybe a Darth Vader type of breath or ocean breath. So almost as if you were trying to fog a mirror with the mouth closed. Noticing how when we breathe in and breathe out just like that, you can feel that sense of soothing the central nervous system. Maybe feeling a sense of expansion. Breathing in, expanding through the belly and the ribs, and then the chest. And then as we exhale, reversing that, so emptying the chest, and then the ribs, and then the belly. Noticing as we're focusing on our breath, maybe thoughts might arise. That's a very normal thing, and anytime it happens, just inviting the breath to come, for the mind to come back to the breath. Even if we have to do that every few seconds. And the more we practice that, we might notice that maybe that space in between, that might lengthen. The spaces between noticing. I'm taking a moment to set our intention for our practice today. Whatever intention speaks to you, whatever you'd most like to cultivate during this time. So whether it be a sense of relaxation, sense of ease, maybe some strength or some balance, and stating that intention to yourself in the present tense as if it already exists, putting it out there to the universe. So maybe saying to yourself, I am relaxed and at ease. Or any other intention that you'd like to set. And then with eyes still closed or open, we might start to invite some movement in for the head and neck, maybe turning the head gently from one side to the other. Noticing any tightness in the upper back and the neck. Maybe bringing the chin to the chest, exhaling and then inhaling to look up. Finding your range of motion through any of these movements. So if anything feels uncomfortable to your neck, then just backing out of it, finding what does feel good. So we're just trying to create some fluidity and mobility through the neck right now, through the cervical spine. So having a little bit of freedom with your movements here. Noticing what feels good right now. We'll take just one or two more breaths right here as we move the breath and the body at the same time. And bringing head and neck back to center. We're going to start involving the upper body. We're really going to focus a little bit on the upper body, the shoulders and the chest today. So we'll inhale, sweeping arms out and overhead. And then exhaling, bringing hands to heart center. Inhaling, reaching wide. Using that full in-breath to sweep the arms to the sky. And then exhaling, hands can come through the middle to the heart. Or this next time we might choose to exhale, arms out to the side. So having a little bit of freedom to choose what feels better to your body right here. Using the breath. So it's almost like a moving meditation as we connect mind, body, and breath. Moving quickly or slowly to match your breath. And on our next one, we're going to just turn this into a little bit of a twist. So we'll inhale, arms come up to the sky. And then as we exhale, twisting over to the right side. Arms can come down towards the ground. And then inhale, turning back to face the front. We'll exhale, twisting over to the other side. So still moving with the breath. And noticing as we're twisting, we're going to start that twist all the way down at the belly button. And then letting that twist travel up through the torso, all the way to the crown of the head. So the head and neck turn last. We're not leading with that turn of the head. And it might be helpful to close your eyes here. Sometimes when we have our eyes open, we use our eyes to tell our body where we want to go. So we turn with the head first. The twists are very nourishing for our spine. They create that fluidity, keeping our spine mobile as we age, but they're also really, really helpful for our digestion, kind of bringing us out from the inside. And just one more time to each direction. And then coming back to face the front. So noticing how you have your legs, if you have your legs crossed, and we'll bring the other leg in front. So if you chose any other seated option, maybe adjusting your legs here, we're just giving our hips a little bit of balance if we're changing the cross of our legs. Now we're going to get into the side body a little bit. So inhale and reaching that right arm up to the sky. The left hand can be next to us or maybe even sweeping out a little bit. Exhaling that right arm down, and then we'll inhale that left arm to the sky. Again, making this as big of a movement as feels good to the side body. Creating length on one side of the torso as we shorten the other. And we're reaching up, but bringing a little bit of a side bend. Maybe feeling this into the lower back, into the hips. If it feels good, we can look up to that top hand. So again, paying attention to your neck. If it doesn't feel good to look up, then maybe looking down. Keeping that connection, that flowing breath, always letting the breath lead our practice. So if you can breathe, you can do yoga. So it's not about, again, what your body looks like. It's about moving the breath through the body, oxygenating ourselves, sending oxygen to every organ, every muscle, every tissue. Just one more time to each side. And then coming back to center. If we are on some type of support, we can set it to the side. And then bending our knees. We'll place our hands behind our bottoms with fingertips facing behind us. Let our feet go wide. And first, we're going to take a little bit of a back bend. So pressing into the hands, arching, creating a little bit of a back bend here, pressing down into the palms, maybe looking up, opening up the front of the shoulders and the chest. And then we'll release that a little bit. And taking those feet wider, we'll just windshield wiper the knees from one side to the other. So after sitting for a little while, it might feel really good to make this flowing movement for the hips. We carry all kinds of stress and tension, emotions in the hips. So that's why they can get really tight. So we're just starting to loosen that up a little bit as we prepare to move on with our practice. Maybe just one or two more. And then we'll make our way onto hands and knees, coming into tabletop pose. We'll place our hands directly underneath our shoulders, spreading the fingertips really wide. So thinking about starfish fingers. Now, if you have any type of wrist issues, then maybe using fists for wrists. Knees are directly under hips. And we're going to start first with cat and cow. So for cat pose, really exhaling, emptying the breath, bringing the chin towards the chest, rounding the spine up towards the sky, and then we're going to reverse that. So inhaling, lifting the tailbone up, dropping the belly, extending the heart forward. So exhaling, rounding, pushing the floor away, drawing shoulders away from the spine, and then inhaling, dropping the belly, shoulders draw in towards each other. Moving with your breath. And again, find your own perfect rhythm here. So moving quickly or slowly. Moving with that breath and letting the tailbone lead that flow. pose. So starting each of those poses all the way down at the base of your spine and traveling up one vertebrae at a time until you come up to the top of the head. Either staying right here with cat and cow, or you can add maybe some little tail wags, rocking the hips from side to side, or we can turn this into some hip circles. So having a little bit of free movement here, you can pay attention, maybe walking your hands further forward or a little bit wider apart. Maybe seeing how those different options are feeling to you. So since it's middle of the day or a little bit later, we might be feeling like we've been sitting too much. So we're taking this time to really honor what your body needs. Then we'll come back into our tabletop pose. And we're going to find that neutral position, so between cat and cow. And we're going to do a flowing movement for the shoulders. It's called thread the needle. So starting in that strong foundation of our tabletop pose, we're going to inhale, sweeping the right arm up, turning our gaze to look at that hand if that feels okay. And then as we exhale, sweeping that arm through, allowing it to hover a few inches off the ground. Inhaling, we'll open, turning to look. And then exhaling, lowering that arm through. So noticing your range of motion here. And this next one, we're going to inhale up. And then as we exhale, bringing that arm through and resting it on the ground. So we can press that forearm into the mat. And we might notice a nice stretch into the back of the right shoulder. The left hand can stay directly where it is, or we could extend it forwards. We have a couple different options for the left shoulder. So that arm can extend, you can raise it to the sky, or maybe even bring it to the lower back. Seeing how those several different options feel. And just breathing into the back of that right shoulder. If this feels uncomfortable to the neck or to the shoulder, we can come back into our cat and cow pose. And then very slowly we can bring that left hand back to where we started, coming back to our tabletop, and we'll try that on the other side. So now this time, inhaling, opening the left arm up as we exhale, sweeping through, moving with your breath, maybe noticing as we have this little bit of twisting motion through the torso that we feel more open on one side than the other. And that's pretty natural. So this time we'll bring the left arm through, letting the side of the head rest on the floor, making any adjustments for that right arm. And it doesn't have to be the same thing that we chose on the other side. So our bodies aren't symmetrical. One side might feel more open than the other. So honoring that as you make your choice for this side. Breathing into those shoulders. And then if we move that right hand, we'll bring it back, coming back into our tabletop. And again, maybe a round or two of cat and cow pose, stretching out what we just worked. From here, we'll bring big toes to touch. Knees can be wide or they can be closer together as we sink our hips back and down into child's pose, allowing the forehead to rest. Maybe rocking the brow, massaging the place between the eyebrows. And if your forehead doesn't make it all the way down to the ground, you can place a block underneath it, or you can stack your hands. And allowing that forehead to rest is really important because it helps to relax the back of the neck. But then when we get this little massage here, we're giving a massage to our pineal gland. And when we do this, it can actually help set us up for a really great night of sleep. So if you ever have difficulty sleeping, this might be pose and an option to try. So getting this little bit of forehead massage. And take just 1 or 2 more breaths right here. Then even choosing to stay in child's pose, or we can walk those hands forward. So fingertips are falling towards the top of the mat. If our knees were wide, we'll bring them closer into alignment with our hips. And then curling toes under to lift the hips into downward facing dog. Feet are about hip distance apart. And we might start to walk our dog, bending one knee and then the other. Hands are about shoulder width apart, so checking that, making sure the middle fingers are facing towards the top of the mat and those fingers are still spread nice and wide, creating a firm base for us. So we always want to start from the ground up. Coming up onto the balls of the feet, lifting the heels. We'll exhale, heels come down towards the ground, but if you don't make it all the way, that's okay. From here, we're going to inhale forward into a plank on toes, firming through the thighs, and creating our strong body, strong upper body as if we were like a plank of wood. Knowing we can lower knees to the ground if we like. And then maybe exhale and coming into a downward facing dog, or we could come to that child's pose. Inhaling forward, moving from the belly, so using the navel, and then that navel pulls us back. One more time, just like that. Inhaling forward, and exhaling back into downward dog or child's pose. Inhaling, we'll look towards our hands, engaging that core, so connecting our strong core center as our solid base here in the middle of us. We'll inhale, and then taking a walk on our exhale into forward fold. Shaking out the head and neck. So shaking our head no, saying no to any limiting thoughts that might hold us back. And then nodding our heads yes. Saying, yes, I am enough, just as I am. And then deepening the bend in our knees. We'll inhale, taking a reverse swan dive. Exhaling, hands come to heart center. So wherever we are, we'll take a step towards the long edge of our mat. So we're going to have a nice wide stance. Knees and toes can face the corners of the mat, and knees and toes are tracking in the same direction. So first, finding our goddess pose, our sun goddess pose, we'll bring arms out and palms are facing up with thumbs reaching towards the back wall. Finding a little bit of a bend in the elbows, and maybe even finding a little bit of motion here. We're going to turn this into a flowing movement. So we'll inhale, arms come up, and we're finding a 5-pointed star. And then exhaling, sitting down into our squat. Arms are in cactus. We can bring elbows even closer so we find some openness across the chest. Inhaling to lift up and exhaling to sink down. Moving with your breath. And making this big or small. Only going as low as feels good to your hips. So again, if you've been sitting a lot today, you might notice that it's going to take a little bit of time to warm up and open the hips. And this is also really good for opening across the chest and the shoulders, especially if we've been leaning forward over our computers or our phones or steering wheels. Really lovely to heat the body. So we're creating some warmth here. Maybe adjusting our feet if we need a wider stance or we need our feet a little closer together. And after this one, we're going to turn this into sunflower. So on the exhale, we'll hinge at the hips, making a big circle with the arms, our own big, beautiful sun. Maybe crossing arms at the top and the bottom. And if we're crossing, maybe paying attention to which arm was in front last time and switching that. So a little bit of a brain teaser for us. as we lower, keeping the head above the heart above the hips. So we're keeping the natural curves of our spine here, not necessarily trying to get all the way down. And then every time we lower, feeling the earth, pressing those feet. So pressing feet into the earth and earth into the feet as we root down to rise tall. We can either stay here with sunflowers, come back to moonflowers, or we can go through what I call side flowers, getting into that side body again. Maybe getting a little creative with your movement. Noticing what your body needs. You can alternate these movements. Maybe even closing the eyes, getting into the movement of the body. So whatever you're choosing, maybe doing one or two more, or until you feel even if you've been alternating sides. And then coming back, we'll bring our feet to hip distance apart. So we're finding ourselves in mountain pose, rooting down through the four corners of each foot. So that's the base of the big toe, the baby toe, and then the inner and outer edge of the heels. So keeping these soft, we're going to flow through chair pose. Again, maybe starting with that sweeping movement of arms, and then exhaling to sit back and down. Arms are optional here. So if you'd like to try something different, maybe bring hands to prayer position or to the thighs. So we'll place our emphasis on the strength of this movement. We're sitting hips back into that imaginary chair, letting the weight of the body come towards our heels. And you might even notice the toes get a little light on the ground, so maybe giving them a little bit of a wiggle. Feeling that strength in our strong thighs, engaging through the core. So being very aware as we move through all our poses of that midsection, drawing the navel in towards the spine, and that's going to help protect the lower back. So this time we're going to sit down into our chair, and we're going to have an option to take a twist here. So taking the right hand to the left thigh and exhaling to twist, turning our gaze over that left shoulder. Breathing here. And then inhaling, we'll come back up. We'll try that on the other side. So exhaling, sitting down into chair, and then taking the left hand across and exhaling to look behind us. Still keeping the chair position. And then as we inhale, coming forward, all the way up, and bringing hands together at the heart. So bringing feet about hip bone distance apart, finding that mountain pose again. Fingertips come to about heart height, and maybe letting our gaze just gently rest on those fingertips, relaxing our eyes, softening our knees. Inhaling, we'll sweep those arms up to the sky, getting nice and tall. And then as we exhale, hinging at the hips, nice long spine as we bend the knees, coming back into forward fold. Stepping the left foot back, we're going to lower the knee down to the ground, coming into a low lunge. So right knee is directly over the ankle. Maybe walking hands up that front thigh. Feeling a nice stretch for the hip flexor, the front of the rear thigh. Hands could come to prayer position. Or maybe lifting arms so that fingertips face each other. Relaxing the throat and the jaw. And relaxing those shoulders too, making sure they're not creeping up around the ears. As we exhale, hands come down to frame that front foot. We'll step the right foot back to meet the left. Shifting our hips into child's pose. And then on our in-breath, we're going to shift forward into a kneeling plank, stacking shoulders over wrists, drawing that belly in to protect the low back. And on our exhale, we're going to lower all the way down, coming onto our bellies. Hands are just gently next to the shoulders and keeping the legs long. We're going to inhale, lifting into a baby cobra pose. So fingertips are maybe lightly on the ground or maybe even hovering off the earth as we use just the strength of the low back to lift us up into that baby cobra. As we exhale, hands come down to the floor, and now pressing those hands, we'll lift up into that kneeling plank pose and exhaling, coming into child's pose. On the next in-breath, stepping the left foot to the top of the mat now. So we're finding our low lunge on the other side of the body. And again, keeping safe alignment for the knee and the ankle. If at any point we notice the knee is in front of the foot, we could just give that foot a little bit of help forward. Walking our hands to the front thigh. And staying here, or maybe adding in an option for arms. So maybe the same option we chose on the other side, or we might get a little creative, maybe interlacing hands behind the back, finding that chest expansion, relaxing the throat and the jaw. Inhaling here, and then as we exhale, bringing hands to frame the front foot, we'll tuck the rear toes under, finding a runner's lunge, shooting some energy out that back heel. And taking that back foot, we'll step into a forward fold, crown of the head towards the earth. We're going to add in a monkey pose here. So inhaling, finding flat back, hands come to shins or maybe to our blocks, and connecting that core. So drawing navel to spine, finding that strength as we draw shoulders away from the ears. Exhaling, melting. Big inhale, we'll sweep up. And then as we exhale, we'll sit into a chair pose, keeping the chest lifted. So if we notice we're looking down at the ground, maybe sitting up a little bit higher here. We'll inhale, and then exhaling, finding our swan dive, hands come to the floor, crown of the head down. Knees are soft, so if we have any tightness in the backs of the legs, maybe bending the knees a little bit more. On our in-breath, we'll find that monkey pose once again. Maybe getting a little bit longer through the spine, imagining your spine's like a bungee cord. Exhaling, hands touch the ground. We'll step the right foot back this time, lowering the knee down to the floor. Walking hands up that front thigh. And again, option for arms. So arms could always stay low. Hands could even be on the ground here. Or we can try something we did on the other side, or maybe try something new. Inhaling, softening our gaze, relaxing the jaw. And then as we exhale, hands come down to frame that front foot. We'll step the left foot back. And either staying still here in our child's pose, or we can do that little bit of vinyasa flow in the middle. Inhaling forward to kneeling plank. Exhaling, lowering all the way down. Inhaling to lift into baby cobra pose, using the strength of the lower back, drawing shoulders away from the ears. Exhaling, coming back down, and then pressing those hands next to the shoulder as we push the floor away from us, coming into a reverse push-up. Exhaling, back into child pose, lengthening the spine. We'll pause for a moment or two here as we check in with the lower back and the hips, being aware of the space we're creating. Breathing into that space. On the next in-breath, we'll step the right foot to the top of the mat, finding low lunge once again. Keeping hands rooted on the earth or our blocks, or we can walk hands up that front thigh. Again, maybe finding an arm position here. Letting go of any need for choosing the same pose or the same option every single time. So maybe exploring those options and seeing how they might feel differently in the body. We'll inhale, finding length in the spine. And then exhaling, hands come to frame that front foot. We'll tuck the rear toes under, finding runner's lunge. And then big step or as many steps to come into forward fold. Turning our awareness in this forward fold. Crown of the head reaches down. We'll inhale, lengthening, finding flat back. Keeping our gaze down towards the earth. Exhaling, melting forward fold once again. Deepening the bend in our knees. We'll inhale, reverse swan dive. And exhaling, hands come to heart as we come into chair pose. Inhale, we'll lift back up. And then exhaling, hands come to heart center. We're going to turn to face the long edge of our mat once again. So this time, feet can either stay parallel with our toes facing the front, or we can find more of that squat position we were in for our moonflowers and sunflowers. We'll inhale, opening the arms wide. And we're going to find an opportunity for creating space in the shoulders once again. So as we exhale, we'll bring the left arm under the right, maybe giving ourselves a big bear hug here. Or we can turn this into eagle arms. So we can bring the backs of the hands together, or we can take the left palm to meet the right palm. So we're getting into the place, the backs of the shoulders that we like to get massaged. If we want a little bit more, we can inhale the arms up and away from the face. We can maybe sit down into that squat a little lower. So either sitting down, or you can have legs a little straighter. And breathing into the backs of the shoulders. Remembering if this is too much, coming back to that bear hug. We'll take one more breath. And then inhaling will come up. As we exhale, we'll untangle the arms, maybe shake out the arms or create some circles. It can be big circles across the body, or going backward and forward. And then we'll do our eagle arms on the other side. So again, maybe sitting just a little bit into that squat, we'll open the arms wide. And this time, taking the right arm under the left. Maybe finding that bear hug. And it might be different on this side, so see what feels good. Either taking that bear hug or bringing backs of the hands together, or we can bring the palms together. If we have palms together, we can stay there or lift them up and away from the face. So as we do that, that might intensify the sensation into the backs of the shoulders. Maybe sitting down into those strong legs, honoring what your body needs right here. Relaxing the throat and the jaw. Noticing if we start to hold the breath, maybe we're trying too hard and we can back out of it a little bit. And we'll all inhale. Reaching those arms out. And again, any movement your shoulders might need right here. As we get ready for a little bit of balance. So balance is really important in our practice because we need balance in our lives. And it's very symbolic of that, but it's also a great way of strengthening the body. And it's also a way of strengthening the mind, because when we're balancing, we can't think about anything else. So starting first in mountain pose, we're going to explore tree pose today. So feet are hip bone distance apart. And putting your weight into the right foot, the right leg, first we're going to find what we call root lock or mula bandha. So engaging through the pelvic floor, lifting up as we soften both knees. And then maybe bringing that left heel to the right ankle. So this is low tree pose. And we're going to find that connection, lifting through the pelvic floor, lifting energy into the body, drawing energy in. Hands are at the heart center, or we can have it out. And maybe staying here, if we'd like, we could bring the foot to the calf or to the thigh, but being really mindful to not place the foot on the knee. We want to protect that knee joint. So again, hands might be a prayer. We can grow our branches, being any kind of tree we want to be today. Maybe noticing if the breeze is blowing, or we might feel the sun on our branches. That left knee is out to the side, opening through the hip once again. And staying here as long as feels good. If you fall over, you can get back up and try again. Maybe feeling that breeze like I was saying. It's getting a little windy. And we'll exhale down, countering that hold with a little bit of movement. So maybe circling through the hips or a little bit of a twisting motion. Might shake things out. And then we'll try the other side. So we're starting from that foundation of feeling rooted with both legs, lifting through the pelvic floor. And as we bring weight more into the left side now, you can bring that right ankle to the heel. Remember, we're drawing in and up, so thinking about inner thighs drawing towards each other, and either staying in low tree or taking that foot high or low. So sometimes when we have tights on, it might be a little slippery, and you gotta play with that. And then maybe your tree looks a little different on the side, so you might grow your branches, or one thing I like to do is have my birdies flying around my tree. So seeing whatever feels good for you right here on the side, and really being aware of the strength we're creating in this pose. Anytime we hold a pose on one leg, that standing leg is getting a lot of strength into that glutes. So fighting to hold it if you need to. And then we'll exhale, coming out of the pose. And again, a little bit of movement here. A bit of counter. So especially if we're circling, we'll go in both directions. Might go get to shake out the arms and legs. Maybe a little jump. And then we're going to get ready to come back onto the floor. So we'll come back to one last mountain pose. And find that sense of being rooted into the earth once again, just like a tree. And we'll inhale, sweep the arms up to the sky. As we exhale, hinging at legs, keeping that long spine, hands come to the floor. And we're going to step back into one last downward facing dog. So if there's any bit of movement or stillness that you wanted to do in down dog, now is the time. So it could be flowing through your dog, maybe pivoting on the feet, getting into the side body. You could find a three-legged dog. So there's no right or wrong. It's just what your body needs right here. And if you're alternating sides, evening that out, maybe coming back to stillness. And when you're ready, lower your knees to the ground, and we'll shift onto our bottoms. We'll extend the legs out. So first, taking the left leg out to the side, the right foot can come in towards the thigh. And for this pose, or this option, you might want to have a strap nearby. You don't need it, but it is an option. We'll flex that left foot, spreading the toes wide. So spreading those toes, and that's really good for the bottoms of the foot, really strengthening. We'll inhale up, and then as we exhale, bringing that left hand towards the left foot. It can come wherever it lands, or if you wanted to use your strap, you can hold on to the strap around the bottom of the foot. And if you don't have a strap, you can use a t-shirt or a towel. And we're not straining here, so it's not necessarily the goal to reach the foot. It's just whatever feels most comfortable, finding that edge, that level of where you can be comfortable at maybe being a little uncomfortable. Or again, not straining, not forcing, not creating any type of pain. From here, that right hand can stay on the ground, or we can inhale, lifting that right arm up and over, getting into the side body. So maybe feeling this into lower back or ribs, turning the chest towards the ceiling. And again, using that gauge of the breath. So if we notice we're holding the breath or it feels labored, then backing out a little bit, finding a place where we can allow the breath to flow. We'll take one more breath right here. Then inhaling just the arm. exhaling it down, and then we'll inhale, upper body. And then coming on to that right forearm, we'll take a quad stretch. So holding on at the ankle, and we'll keep knee and hip in line with each other. So rather than lifting that leg out of alignment, we'll make sure that the knee and the hip are in one line. So we're stretching out the front of that thigh that can get tight from sitting, or we do a lot of walking or running. Just breathe here for a moment or two. Relax the shoulders. And we're being really careful to not sink into that right shoulder. Take one or two breaths right here. And releasing that foot, that ankle. We'll come back up and we'll switch sides. So now extending the right leg out to the side. Left foot is in towards the thigh, wherever feels good. So this might be different on both sides. You might notice you need to take the foot a little further away or maybe a little closer. And as we inhale, we'll sit up nice and tall. As we exhale, bringing that right hand to wherever it comfortably goes. So if it reaches the foot, great. If it comes to the thigh, great. Or if you want to use that strap again, having that. Letting go of any need for both sides to look the same. Remembering we're not symmetrical usually for the most part. We usually have one side that is a little more open than the other. And just paying attention to those differences. So if this side feels a little different than the last side, you can just kind of say to yourself, okay, or just acknowledging it. So we don't need to attach any type of judgments or stories. And again, you have the option here of taking that left arm up and over. So if it feels right for this side, adding that in, breathing into the places where you're feeling the sensation, maybe through the hip or the lower back. Relaxing that jaw, maybe even wiggling it around or making silly faces. One last breath right here. We'll inhale just the arm, exhaling it down, and then inhaling the upper body up. So as we come over, we'll bring the left forearm down to the ground, and we'll take that quad stretch on this side. So holding on at the ankle. Again, noticing that we want to try and keep that hip in line with the knee. This isn't an area that we get to stretch very often, so maybe really feeling this stretch, especially if we do a lot of sitting. And just breathing into that. Anytime you need to, you can release it. Checking in with the abs, making sure the core is still connected, so drawing that navel in to protect the lower back. On our next in-breath, we're going to very slowly release the foot, so not letting it slingshot out. And then we'll come back up. So we're getting ready to make our way onto our backs. So holding on behind one of our legs, and we'll use that leg as a handle to roll onto the back. Hugging the knees in towards the chest, and you can stay still, or if you'd like to get a little bit of a massage here, maybe circling the knees. We'll circle in both directions. This might feel really lovely getting that massage to the ground. But be mindful, if you have any disc issues, you can stay still. Or you can add a little extra padding underneath you. From here, we're going to lift our feet towards the sky. We're coming into happy baby pose. So first starting with feet up, but then we're going to spread the legs a little wide, holding on behind the thighs. Knees are wider than the body. So we can hold on here, maybe reach for calves or for the outsides of the feet. Some people like to hold on to their big toes, taking peace fingers. So exploring, seeing what you like here. Maybe adding in a rocking motion. Again, being mindful of any sensations in the spine or the lower back. So if it feels better, you can stay still like a dead bug. Inviting those hips down towards the ground so we can create some openness. Again, so this is almost like doing child's pose in a sense, that openness we're creating for the lower back and around the sacrum. And then very slowly we'll release this, bring feet down to the floor. And then turning this into a twist, we'll lift the hips up and over to the right side, dropping knees to the left side, and maybe turning the head away from the knees. Or we can keep our gaze up towards the ceiling. Feeling our body starting to slow down a little bit. Letting the mind start to slow down too. So a nice easy twist for the spine here. We started to practice with some flowing twists. Now we're just getting into a very passive twist. One more breath here. And as we inhale, we'll come back to center, bring knees towards the sky, and maybe scooting our hips first towards center, and then all the way over to the left side, dropping knees now to the right side. So knees can be stacked, or if you'd like to place a pillow or a cushion between the thighs, maybe a block if you have a yoga block. Making any adjustments so that your body can be at ease in this twist. If it feels good to look towards the left hand, looking to the left side. Opening the heart. And just one more breath here. And slowly to come out of it, we'll bring knees back up towards the sky, letting the spine settle on the earth. Taking any last little bit of movement or any last pose that you might want right here. So if there's anything your body is saying you need right now, then offering it that. So it might be a bridge pose, or maybe coming back in a happy baby, maybe an inversion. So whatever it is you need right now. And then as you're ready, we're going to make our way into final relaxation. So that could be lying on the back with the knees bent, letting the knees drop in towards each other in what we call constructive rest. Or for more traditional Shavasana, we could extend the legs, letting the feet be wider than the hips. And just allowing the feet to drop out to the sides. Eyes can close here. Or they can just soften. Relaxing all the muscles of the face and the jaw. Allowing the shoulders to dissolve into the earth. Feeling every part of the back, all the parts that are touching the earth. Feeling them sinking into the ground. Allowing the body to absorb and assimilate all the benefits of the practice today. Find your own path. There are no rules for this. no courses you can take in school. The teachers you meet along the way point out a direction, but it is their direction. You follow it because it seems strong to you in the time of your uncertainty. If you are lucky, you become lost. Losing your way is always a positive step once you get over the fear. Getting lost is proof you were mistaken and motivates you to make a correction. No one goes as far astray as the person who makes a false decision early in life just to have a direction to follow. Oh, how wonderful it would be if we were all so abundantly gifted in childhood that our talent cut its own path before us. But that doesn't happen very often. Your education probably diluted your enthusiasm for what you love rather than encouraged it. Your parents probably supported education over your natural gifts. It's hard not to feel a little like a trained monkey, educated to feel someone else's requirements, while your own inner directives are not regarded seriously. Since even a bright talent shines dimly in the beginning, at first it's hard to believe in yourself and your true direction. Should you try and then find your efforts less than you hoped, you may abandon your path for a more secure road. No one likes to fall. You are your direction. All you have to do is harness your best intentions, claim your own desire, accept your strengths and limitations, and allow whatever gift you have to lead you. Your gift first presents itself as a love. Your talent holds your attention and attracts you to details. All genius lies in attention to details. You can follow whatever road you chose, but if the way you travel is not your own, what difference does it make that you followed it? This is my journey. This is my life. I create the road as I walk. Bringing some movement back to the body, wiggling fingers and toes. And then as you're ready, rolling gently to one side, keeping the knees bent. And using hands to come back to an upright seat. So coming back to the place we started the practice. Inhaling, we'll bring arms overhead with the thumbs to the forehead for good thoughts, to the lips for good words, and to the hearts for good intentions. The divine light within me honors the divine light within you. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me today.